Welcome to March Malcontent, episode 6. We're going to start off with Villager against Pirahna Plant. Villager has a attack that attacks with a potted plant. I don't know what that would count as. Using somebody's distant cousin as a blunt object to beat them with. I'm sure it's a crime, I just don't know which one it would have to be labeled as. Maybe it would just have to be labeled as multiple. Villager with an amazing tech there. Gets him a counter hit. His attack was not strong enough to put Pirahna Plant in enough hit stun to get him out of this situation unscathed. But it's still better than the alternative of not. This is actually a pretty evenly balanced fight here. Just a real slugfest. Kind of what you'd imagine, I guess, like a normal boxing match would be like. Villager gets the spike. Didn't get enough turnips to kill Pirahna Plant. Also, I don't think he got the strongest hitbox. That is the thing about Villager's up air and down air. He attacks with the turnips, and if you've ever played Animal Crossing, you know that turnips are basically the stock market. They even make a whole bunch of puns about it. But that's why Villager has a randomized amount of turnips. Because in the normal Animal Crossing games, turnips are kind of wild and unwieldy, but can produce a whole bunch of money. So if it doesn't go terribly, it's often seen as like one of the best income generators in the game. Villager lands that spike though, killing Pirahna Plant. Pirahna Plant goes too low, doesn't get gimped because he has a really good recovery move. This is a crazy offensive Villager, by the way. Usually you don't see Villagers engage this often. Just the way his moves work, it's usually better for him to try to keep his distance for as long as he can get away with. Pirahna Plant getting back at Villager with a spike of his own, off the back end of the ship once more. Interesting thing about the gyroid right there. Sorry, the Lloyd rocket. Anyways, Lloyds are different from gyroids, but it's more that one's a larger term than the other, kind of like the whole square rectangle thing. Anyways, the Lloyd rocket follows the path of ramps. It doesn't follow like 90-degree walls, but it does kind of follow the stage. Great move by Pirahna Plant using his neutral air. It stays out longer, so it's easier to edgeguard people with. Down air probably wouldn't have killed either because Villager has such a good recovery. And I know he just used it so he would have had slightly less fuel. But you have to be mostly out of fuel in order for the penalty to start applying to you. It starts out with you only get one balloon, and then beyond that, you just don't get any more mobility. Also, every kill this match, I think, has been a spike. Because Pirahna Plant got one on Villager, and Villager got two on Pirahna Plant. You'd think that they're on like some sort of game show challenge. Pirahna Plant charging up his side B. It's not exactly a weird thing about his side B poison move, but usually if you have a charge move, it would be on your neutral B or perhaps your side B. I do understand why they put it on the side B. It's not really a problem. Also, he armored through the get-up attack. But he's too close to the edge, so he couldn't hit Villager. Anyways, it's just a little peculiar to have a charge move on your sideways special. So, that was Pirahna Plant's forward tilt. It's normally a two-hit move, but he hit Villager once, and then stalled, and then used it again. And since Villager didn't do anything, he had plenty of time to, but he didn't do anything. It turned into a three-hit move. Well, Villager must have gotten mad that Pirahna Plant didn't kill him with a spike on that last stock, because Villager came back with a turnipy vengeance. That brings us to Richter versus Banjo Kazooie. Their first game is called Banjo Kazooie, but they're collectively called Banjo and Kazooie because they're two characters who have different names. The bear is named Banjo, the bird is named Kazooie. Banjo, I believe, can play the banjo, and Kazooie can play the kazoo. It never really comes up in the games, aside from, like, just a little visual gag or whatever. But I like to think that, wow, that was ruthless by Banjo. Footstool into hitting Richter with the shock jump pad. Richter just couldn't get out of that. Richter tries to escape with a down air, instead falls into a grab. That'll show him trying to offstage pressure Banjo with his neutral air. Not normally something you want to do as a Richter. So for any of you wondering the difference, wow, Richter just, okay. For any of you wondering the difference between Simon and Richter, the difference is they have different models, their taunts are different, and that Richter's Holy Fire counts as an aura attack, but Simon's counts as a fire attack. Yeah, not too many changes. I do wish they had done something like giving them slightly different percentage outputs based off of which attacks they're using. Like if Richter is using attacks that he used before Simon, or if Simon was using attacks that he used before Richter, then it would just do a little extra percent. So it would kind of make the choice a little more important than effectively being the same character. Sometimes people just call them, like, the Belmonts, because they kind of can. Strictly competitively speaking, the only real difference they have is that Simon can hit things with a fire attack, which in competitive Smash Brothers affects Link's remote bomb and Olimar's Pikmin. But with Olimar's Pikmin, you don't normally want to hit them with a fire attack because the red ones are immune. So really the choice is exactly as simple as use Richter against Olimar, Simon against Link, unless you don't want to hit his bomb for some reason, and everything else is just whoever you feel like that day. Zero Suit Samus versus Little Mac, and go! This is going to be a rough matchup for Little Mac because Zero Suit Samus is normally really good against him. It is going to be interesting though, because the amiibo aren't going to exactly know how to camp out Little Mac. Especially not in the specific way that Zero Suit Samus is good at it. Little Mac just tried to go for down air there. Usually with Little Mac's aerials, it's not that big of a problem if you kind of just forget he has them a lot of the time. There has actually been some work put into the characters, so people are finding out actual combos you can use with them. Usually it involves hitting somebody onto the ground so you can hit him with a grounded move. Little Mac's entire shtick being that he's not a good air fighter, but he's an amazing ground fighter. Smash Brothers, though, is a game where you keep knocking people off stage, and all the tournament stages have pits. So in a competitive environment, Little Mac isn't as strong as he would be for most casual players. He also has super armor on his smash attacks, and when I say that I mean Nintendo super armor, which is, well, super armor technically means that if you get hit by attack, you just take the damage and continue. Little Mac does have a threshold of if you hit him with a hard enough attack, it will break the armor on his attacks. That being said, the armor is pretty high on all of them, so unless you're hitting him with an incredibly strong attack, or is it like a really high percent, he's just going to armor through it and hit you anyway. So I'll just warn you before you start thinking, oh, well, I'll just hit through his armor. No, you're not. I mean, you could even see there, I'm pretty sure Zero Suit Samus hit Little Mac, but he armored through it and then got his smash attack out anyway. Oh, but anyways, because there is that limit, it doesn't count as super armor. Other quirks on Little Mac is that his tilts have trample, which you might not have heard before because the only attacks I know that have it are Little Mac's tilts and Jigglypuff's dash attack. And that's as far as I know. Basically what trample means is that if it collides with another attack, normally there's a formula that goes in effect that determines if attacks clank or not. And clanking is just when basically you punch the other guy's fist and you both do a little recoil. The essence of it though is that the stronger attack gets off better with more frame advantage, stuff like that. And if the stronger attack is strong enough, then the attacks won't even clank anyway, and the lesser attack just gets negated. Well, basically what trample does is that it ignores that formula and just bypasses the opponent's attack. I'm pretty sure if you have two trample attacks that hit each other, aerial KO punch doesn't really kill. Grounded KO punch will kill probably Zero Suit Samus at like 15 or 20%, but you saw that the aerial didn't kill anywhere remotely to there. Anyways, trample attacks would just trade like normal. Honestly, it's a lot like the Transcendent property, which, as far as I know, was only on Meta Knight's moves in Smash Bros. Brawl. And what that did was that instead of calculating for clanks, it would just not calculate them at all. The main difference between Transcendence and Trample is that Trample does stop the opponent's attack, so you won't get hit. The problem that Transcendent had, though, was that Meta Knight's sword was a lot longer in Brawl, so his sword would go through their attacks, and their attacks would go through his sword, but because his sword was so long, he would almost always win the exchange. One of the things that got fixed about Meta Knight for Smash 4. Alright, last stock, 16% off. Now it's 11. And now Little Mac's suddenly technically winning. He just needs to, kill Zero Suit Samus before he dies. Which I suppose you need to do in any fight. Gets KO Punch, though. So you can get rid of Little Mac's KO Punch by throwing him, or you can also get rid of it by hitting him. If you hit the KO Punch out of him, though, there is a little bit of a grace period where it can't be hit out of him. It's like a second or two. So if you see Little Mac get the KO Punch, you can't just immediately hit him one more time and then negate that strong of a port. But I believe you can negate it quickly with a grab. That being said, it's really risky to go for a grab on a Little Mac who has KO Punch, because if you're above 0%, the KO Punch will probably kill you. And Little Mac kills Zero Suit Samus with the forward tilt. Don't know why he's jumping off stage there at the end. Because a Little Mac edgeguarding you he has a very, very small range when he can hit you with his attacks, and if you have a good recovery, he's not going to be able to gimp you. So that kind of concerns me about what his AI is like. Now we're at Bowser vs. Pac-Man. This is unrelated to the tournament, but I've seen people who store their amiibos in buckets, and they'll just dump all the amiibo in there. I'm surprised they do that, because I would think the amiibo would be very liable to get damaged. A lot of them have very small parts holding them together. Granted, I keep mine on a shelf and I have to dust them. So maybe I should get like some sort of ornate display case. That would be cool if I could have it be glass. Pac-Man misses the trampoline. That's going to be a very hard mistake to recover from. Gets a jab to neutral combo. That normally wouldn't be ideal, however Bowser does have Tough Guy armor, which lets him shrug off smaller knockback attacks. Usually the 1-2-3 combo that everybody has is strong enough that it doesn't get negated by the tough guy armor. So I don't think Pac-Man needed to do that, but it's still an interesting interaction, I suppose. Pac-Man tries to drop a fire hydrant on Bowser's head, but the platform saves him. Bowser, I mean, not Pac-Man. Bowser tried to edge Pac-Man, almost made it to the trampoline. Pac-Man had to go for that edge guard. We just got a glitch in the Matrix. They just repeated their actions for like a good 5 seconds there. None of them learning. So there you saw that Bowser tech rolled into Pac-Man's smash attack. Pac-Man smash attacks, they do have a longer lasting hitbox than you'd think. Of course, the longer the hitbox lasts, the attack is a little bit weaker, so it doesn't become just an area of instantly killing opponents. But it does kind of show how long Pac-Man's smash attacks last for. And they're just kind of hitting each other. You'd think one of them would go for an edge guard, a ledge trap. Oh, Bowser went for a kill move. Got Pac-Man. Way off at the side of the stage. No way Pac-Man's surviving. Bowser got the up tilt to up tilt combo. That usually doesn't happen because it requires your opponent does nothing for like a good second and a half. And usually if you're not, even if you're not like tremendous at the game, you're going to be trying something, if even on accident, right after you get hit. Ooh, Pac-Man gets a good edge guard though. He uses the side B to recover, which means Bowser can't use the trampoline to get back. Oh, but Bowser starts off strong. Definitely the odds are against Pac-Man here. Okay, well now the odds are very against Pac-Man here. Up next, we've got Lucina versus Lucario. A sentence that couldn't be more of a tongue twister unless you also included Lucas. Which, you know, is fun in games, but it does point out that for some reason there are 3 fighters in the cast that have names that start with L-U-C, and 2 that have a name that starts with L-U-C-A. I don't know if it's a translation thing. Also, Lucario is a new spirit. You don't need to worry about spirit stats affecting Lucario's aura. In Smash 4, equipment did have like a conversion rate with Lucario's aura. Basically the main deal being that they don't want people to increase his defense to absurd levels to cheat out on his aura. But in Smash Ultimate that's not really a problem. Probably due to the way the spirits work. And of course there's a bunch of spirits that boost Lucario's aura anyway, so they probably wanted you to lean into it more. Oh, Lucina with a taunt almost gets killed immediately after. That's a combo people like to call taunts to get bodied. Because normally when you're describing a combo, you'll talk about like the different moves used, like, for example, Lucina's down throw to up air combo. So people decided, you know what, if you taunt and then get absolutely wrecked as a result, we're going to give it its own combo descriptor. And the one they came up with was taunts to getting bodied. Well, it's forward smash, barely not killing Lucario. Now Lucina does kind of need to be worried, because Lucario with aura, well, so Lucario without aura is probably worse than most characters. Once he gets aura, you need to be careful around him, because everything he has just becomes much scarier. Lucina played it well and was able to kill Lucario, but if he gets like a good edge guard off of you, or you just can't struggle to kill him, he will start to roll over you. Like a steamroller on a... oh, I don't know, like a steamroller on a metaphor made out of butter. There we go. There's an image for you. Lucina finally gets off the platform. Now she can stop getting kicked in the teeth by Lucario. Goes completely over the platform. I like to think she learned. Oh, Lucario gets a semi-early kill against Lucina. This actually does put Lucina in a very dangerous situation. First of all, by spot dodging that up smash. That could have ended poorly, but mostly just you get hit by the smash attack. But now Lucina needs to get Lucario up to a high percent without getting within kill range herself, and she has to do that twice. Spot dodging the F smash again. I mean, I guess I probably can't disparage it because it keeps working. That being said, just because something works doesn't mean it's a good strategy. Lucina's swatting bees out here. That up smash almost just killed Lucina. I don't remember what Lucario's aura starts out as, but it does build faster than it would in previous games. Yeah, especially on top of that, because Rage is now a mechanic as well, and that stacks on top of Aura. Rage is an interesting mechanic because it just gives you more knockback when you're at high percent, and more knockback applies to the knockback you deal and the knockback you take. It's honestly kind of the game for the casual side, where people just don't know how to kill each other. It means that if both people are at high percents, the players will have just more moves that will kill the opponent. So I definitely like the mechanic, and it does add a little bit of depth. There are a lot fewer true combos, or more adequately explained, there are a lot of combos that are true, but only at very specific percents, because if you get more, it will adjust your rage, and that will determine that the combo is no longer true. Or some combos are more possible with range, or like it'll give you a wider window when you can perform them. Yep. That'll kill you. Lucario forward smash when he's at a high percent. Now we're up to Lucario versus Marth, which I know is kind of similar to the last match because Marth and Lucina are echoes. I will say that specifically Lucina and Marth, the main difference between them is that Marth has tipper hitboxes on all of his attacks, which basically means that a couple of his attacks do reach just a little bit farther, but more importantly, the tip of Marth's sword hurts more than the base of his sword. You can actually kind of see in his attack effects. That's why he has a thick swoosh line at the end of his sword and a much harder to see one in the middle, whereas Lucina's is uniform throughout. It does actually have quite a lot of gameplay implications, and it's been interesting to see how each one gets balanced to try to keep them approximately equal without having one of them be just straight up better. Near the end of Smash 4's lifespan, people started by saying Marth was better because he had tippers and Lucina didn't. So the theory was, oh, if you just always hit tippers, then Marth is objectively better. Over time, though, people started to realize that your opponent would do everything in their power to not let you play perfectly. For example, messing up their positioning, which would mess up your tippers. And then, just gradually, Lucina became... Well, people just realized Lucina was better, because instead of hitting the weaker sour spot of Marth's sword, they were hitting the more standardized weak spot of Lucina's sword. And then, of course, they've balanced the characters every now and then. One of the most interesting changes Marth got was actually that they moved the middle hitbox on his sword a little bit further closer to the hilt, and that basically meant that you could semi-consistently hit tippers. Oh, you would think it would, like, reduce his range or something, but it really didn't. I guess technically it means that now his sword has a blind spot the size of a like the size of a cherry relative to his body. And since nobody is that small, it never comes up. But it does mean that the game rewards you for hitting the tip of the sword more often, so I do appreciate that change they made. Now I know I said these matches were going to be similar, but Lucario's not doing too hot against Marth. Obviously, in this particular case, it's probably more of a case of the two amiibo having different AIs. If it's any help, Lucina got trained a lot earlier before Marth. Because, well, basically, the only reason is that it was harder to get the Marth amiibo. Marth used to be an incredibly difficult amiibo to have. But Lucina was like one of my first 8 amiibo, I want to say. So I've had her the longest, and Marth for a lot less time. Well, if Lucario gets lucky for another 4 interactions, he might win this. He already got Marth up to 50%. That is what you need to... Oh, now they're, like, really close. He suddenly turned it into a tie game. And the longer Marth goes without killing Lucario, the more likely he's going... Oh, I did say tie game. I didn't realize Marth has an extra life. That being said, Lucario's back there has a lot of knockback, and it really benefits from the extra aura knockback. Oh, Marth gets the tipper on Lucario, though. You can kind of tell, because if he didn't hit with the end of the sword, the move wouldn't have killed. At least I'm fairly sure. I haven't done, like, the calculations on it. You can just, like, tell in your bones after you've gotten hit by enough swords. Oh, and I totally forgot to mention, but the reason why they have the different sword properties is because I guess in the lore of Fire Emblem, they have the same sword, except that Lucina's sword is actually a copy of Marth's sword, so her sword is like the inferior version, and the sword's name is the Falchion. And that's the extent of the Fire Emblem lore I know about their specific swords. Oh, and Lucina's like Marth's like great descendant or something. Alright, now we've got Kirby Classic against Dr. Mario. Dr. Mario did really well in last year's April Anger. Let's see if he can keep it up. Instead of turning out to be a normal-sized fish in a tiny pond. Hey, they finally hit each other. It's always a brutal move, Kirby taking you off screen and slamming you into the ground. It's weird because it's almost become not a standard feature of Smash Brothers, but there's a lot of characters now that have an up throw that take you off the screen. It used to be just Kirby, but now it's Kirby, Meta Knight, Charizard, King Dedede. And by King Dedede, I should have said King K. Rool. And maybe there's someone I'm forgetting. It is actually a little impressive, the programming that has to take place, because when you take someone off the screen, logically they would both die. But having a move that kills you and the opponent, and all you need to do is grab them, really would cause a whole bunch of problems. So I don't know exactly how they've programmed it, but they found a way so that if you take somebody that high up, the both of you don't die. But more interesting is that if there's a ceiling above you, then your characters will stop when they hit the ceiling, and then eventually will crash back down. So it isn't just like a visual effect, like, it actually calculates the physics, and then when it gets to the blast zone, it ignores the physics. So I guess this is probably a good stage for Dr. Mario, because the side blast zones are a lot closer in, and since Dr. Mario has a not amazing recovery. It means that, well, basically it means that he can't get sent super far off stage because the blast zone will kill him first. Whereas Kirby has a better recovery than Dr. Mario. It's a little weird to think, but Kirby's recovery isn't amazing just because his airspeed is a little slower, so it's harder for him to get to the stage in time. That being said, he still does have 5 jumps and an up B. So, he definitely has a better recovery than average, I'd say. Wow, that's already the game. For our last match of this episode, we have Duck Hunt against Kirby Smash Bros. The Smash Bros. Kirby amiibo. It's, you know, different from the last one. I didn't just change the skins on them. Which you would think you wouldn't be able to do, but I believe if you take the skin, the amiibo has to take the next one in the line. Because the one they want is already taken, and it won't override your already chosen skin. Which also doesn't make sense, because if you were to have 2 amiibo, how would the game choose which one? Oh yeah, then a side note about Duck Hunt. Duck Hunt was the one amiibo from last year who didn't qualify for the retraining by some stroke of luck, but got retrained anyway. Oh, there's a taunt. Duck Hunt got retrained anyway because Duck Hunt had a terrible habit of exclusively smash attacking. Actually got to be a problem because when I train amiibo with other amiibo, I'd have to avoid using Duck Hunt on them because then they just learn to keep forward smashing. Which is weird because it's not supposed to work that way from a programming point, but I guess since the forward smashes were so laggy, it would encourage the amiibo to use their own forward smashes because they would still get the punish and it would be worth more damage, 1%, and more likely to kill Duck Hunt. But aside from the one taunt we've had, the problem seems to mostly be solved, and Duck Hunt can now actually compete with people. And of course the AI has a slight advantage with managing stuff like the can, when to throw it out, and stuff like that. Although Classic Kirby seems to be doing pretty well against Duck Hunt. For example, right then, getting the first combo hit of forward air into a forward smash. You don't usually see that because I don't think it's normally a combo, but it worked in this case. That is one of the things about amiibos, that they'll be doing a lot of things that really aren't best practice for humans to do because humans know how to avoid it. But since the amiibos also don't have the best practice in avoiding combos, it does mean they can get away with certain things on each other. Kind of like how people would get away with things on each other in real life. Wow, that just kind of cut my conversation so short.